Moving on, folks, we are now at Lesson 7, and specifically Lesson 7a, the French Revolution is what we're going to be talking about during this little broadcast. French Revolution is really an outpouring of the American Revolution and the ideas of the Enlightenment. Those two things coming together really make a lot of European countries and citizens in Europe take another look at how they have their government structured and the rights of the common person. So that's going to be kind of our focus today, a critically important element in Europe, and really is the start of a change from that absolute monarch era of Europe to a more democratic era. So we're going to start today with the French Revolution. Quick preview, what are we going to take a look at? Well, what led up to the French Revolution, the prelude, the destruction of the old French regime, that absolute monarch regime, the Radical Revolution, and the age of Napoleon. That's going to be our focus for this particular broadcast. Reading you're going to be doing today is going to be Chapter 18, pages 547 to 569. We're going to actually break that up into two pieces. So the first part of Chapter 18, dealing with the French Revolution, is going to be what you're going to do for Lesson 7a, and then we're going to focus on Lesson 7b, that back half, dealing with Napoleon. Some terms that you need to know: the bourgeoisie, coup d'etat, nationalism, and estates general. Okay, so those are a couple of good French words for you to know, and I think I pronounced those pretty well. If I'm incorrect, you can let me know. So what's going on when we're leading up to the French Revolution? Well, as I indicated, the French are influenced by the events in America. The American Revolution allows the thinkers in France to really look and check out and see what they want from a government. The French economy is also in crisis. Bad harvests, bad food shortages, people are hungry, people are mad, the economy is a mess, and that allows people to really think about, is the government doing for me what I need from it? Is the king really leading me down the path I want to go? So people question the rule of the absolute monarchs. Even if they are willed by God, I'm not getting much out of this, so it makes you think a little bit about maybe changing the system. In France at this time, you have to understand that there are essentially three categories of people. The French society is divided into three groups. They call them estates, but it's just another word for group. The first estate is the clergy, so the people that are associated with the church, and for the most part in France at this point, we're talking about the Catholic Church. The second estate is the nobility, so not only the king, but all of the nobles around in the different parts of France. And the third estate is the common person. So anybody who is not in the first two is the common. So obviously the vast majority of people in France are in the common estate. And the economy is based on feudalism. So the idea is that an area is controlled by one particular person, and then we go from there. And this leads to the rise of the bourgeoisie, and that's a fancy name for kind of all the people of all the different classes. And really it's a rise of the third estate, that large group of individuals that makes up the vast majority of the population, really starts to question its role in France and the government. And there's a meeting of the three estates called in 1789, and the third estate, the common people, were banned from attending. And that angered people, and an angry mob, in fact, stormed a building called the Bastille on July 14th of 1789, kind of starting off the French Revolution. And even today in France, July 14th is a very important day, kind of like Declaration of Independence July 4th is for us in America, and they call it Bastille Day. So the National Assembly, this group of kind of the nobility and the clergy and the king, limits the powers of the aristocracy. They start to pull away from the power of the absolute monarch and give a little bit more power to the other estate. At the same time, we have individuals that are thinking, just like they did in America, about the role of human beings and what their basic rights are. So the French come up with something called the Declaration of the Rights of Man. And the National Assembly clarifies this, and it's really based on the U.S. Declaration and the Constitution. Citizens are promised life, liberty, property, and security. Now, when they say the Declaration of the Rights of Man, they really mean it, because women are not allowed or considered to have the same level of rights. So women are still excluded at this point. Sorry, ladies. What are the issues that we're dealing with in France that are starting to come to the fold? Well, the king is forced from his palace in Versailles back to Paris by a mob of women. So this third estate, and specifically this women who are feeling shut out, march on Versailles and essentially force the king to leave this incredible castle of his and go to back to Paris. The church at the same time is reforming and becoming more secular, so it's becoming a little more connected with the people. And the National Assembly actually is voting for a new constitution. So all these common people are starting to influence the power structure in France. Also, France goes to war with Austria and Prussia in 1792 and doesn't do very well. And so nothing like a loss to also frustrate the common people. And that leads to the rise of radicalism. The French common people rise against the king and the wealthy. They get very frustrated. They don't feel they've been well served. In fact, they feel they've been poorly served and are angry and blame the king. At the time, the king is King Louis XVI, who, along with a number of other nobles, are killed. And this picture on this page shows King Louis XVI at the guillotine, which is the method of destruction for most of the nobles in the French Revolution. Factions develop within the radical population, and they kind of fight each other. And many have refused to accept the rule of the National Convention. National Convention is essentially kind of the get-together of the powerful in France, and a lot of these radical individuals refuse to accept the rule. So we have essentially chaos and a little bit of anarchy. And that is known as the Reign of Terror. So this idea where very few people in control, blood in the streets, etc., is called the Reign of Terror. And a committee of safety, public safety, is now in control of France. Essentially, it's become kind of a martial law. It becomes a military state to try to keep the people under control. Opposition leaders are arrested and executed, so anybody who speaks against the Committee of Public Safety is put down. Other European nations are prepared to attack France. France is in chaos. France is an incredibly powerful and important part of Europe, and so a lot of other European nations are seeing a good opportunity to pounce on France. The French, however, actually pull it together and defeat their foes. And the leader of the Committee of Public Safety, once France has kind of regained its footing, the people look back and see this reign of terror for what it is, and they kill the leader of the Committee of Public Safety, named Maximilien Robespierre. So that's a little bit of information about what's going on during the French Revolution. We will look more at what happens after the Reign of Terror, after this lull of chaos, when we look at an incredibly charismatic and important military leader who becomes a political leader in France, and that is Napoleon Bonaparte. But that's for next time. For now, go ahead and take a look at 7a, your lesson, and your assignment, and we'll talk to you next time.